Homeland Security. Today I'm joined by Will Langston, who's our state meteorologist. Earlier, we briefed Governor Kemp, who's been leading our response over the past week. We've been in constant communication and will continue to do so through the entirety of this event. As a recap of information that was put out yesterday, Governor Kemp issued a state of emergency order for all 159 counties, which will remain in effect through January 29th. The state of emergency makes all state resources available for local governments and allows for more efficient deployment. The State Operations Center will activate at Level 1, full activation tomorrow at 7 a.m., and will operate 24/7 until winter weather has passed. A major winter storm is expected to bring significant impacts to North Georgia and Metro Atlanta this weekend. The timing for onset of winter weather is expected to begin Saturday afternoon at the earliest. The primary precipitation type is still expected to be freezing rain, with ice accumulations of 1/4 to 1 inch, generally along and north of the I-20 corridor. An ice storm warning has been issued for most of North Georgia. Confidence is high for major and prolonged impacts in these counties. Several counties north and east of Macon remain under a winter storm watch. Several counties north and east of Macon and southwest of Atlanta remain under a winter storm watch. Significant ice accumulation is possible in the watch and warning counties between Saturday afternoon and Sunday night. Temperatures will drop below freezing Sunday evening and will remain very cold all the way through Tuesday. Prolonged freezing temperatures will cause roads to refreeze. Extreme cold watches and warnings will be possible on Monday night and Tuesday morning. Burst pipes will be possible with this level of extreme cold. Dangerous travel conditions are likely in the watch and warning areas as early as Saturday afternoon and will continue to worsen throughout the day on Sunday. Hazardous road conditions could also affect the Monday morning commute. Downed trees and power lines could cause extended power outages and debris issues in the watch and warning areas through Monday afternoon. GEMA Homeland Security is coordinating with partners at all levels. That includes our state agencies and our utility partners to ensure Georgians have the resources they need before, during, and after potential winter weather impacts. Resources such as water, blankets, and MREs have been moved across the state where they can better fit the needs of those likely to be affected. We're also working with the Department of Public Health to ensure that nursing homes know who to call if they lose power. Residents should check with their local officials for information about warming centers and comfort station locations. Georgia State Parks are also opening warming stations for public use. Those locations can be found at georgiastateparks.org/alerts. Georgia DOT crews will start pre-treating interstate highways across North Georgia beginning at midnight Friday night into Saturday. Brine operations will continue around the clock, and crews will continuously monitor roadway conditions and treat as needed through the duration of the event. Georgia State troopers are prepared to respond and assist motorists, but do us all a favor and stay off the roads. The Department of Agriculture, along with DNR and the Forestry Commission, who will operate from a unified command, will have response teams standing by with ATVs, chainsaws, and tow straps. For all the work that GEMA and our state partners are doing to prepare for the warning storm, the best help we can get is for individuals to prepare for themselves. We ask that everyone takes the time now to prepare your family, prepare your home, and prepare your car. Sit down with your family and make a communications plan. Know how you'll contact one another if you're reconnected and if you're separated, how you'll reconnect. Make sure you have a ready kit with enough non-perishable food, water, and medications for 3 days. Ensure you have warm clothing and blankets. Have flashlights and batteries. Update your first aid kit. Remember, always have a way to charge your phone. If you have pets, make sure they have enough food and water for at least 3 days, and let them spend as much time inside with you as possible. Take precautions like installing and testing smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. Cover your outdoor pipes, seal your doors, windows, and clean out your gutters. Think of ways to safely heat your house, especially if the power goes out. And remember, never use your oven to heat your house. And don't bring a portable generator inside. Before the storm hits, make sure your gas tank is full and prepare an emergency car kit, including a first aid kit, cell phone charger, jumper cables, blankets, water and snacks, and an ice scraper. Starting tomorrow, we ask that you stay off the roads as much as possible. Not only does staying off the roads ensure your safety, it ensures everyone's safety, and it allows Georgia DOT crews the time they need to be able to work on our roads. If travel is necessary, I ask you to slow down, allow extra time, and be especially careful on bridges and overpasses as they freeze first. If everyone takes the time now to follow these steps, GEMA and our state partners will be better able to respond to needs as they arise. GEMA Homeland Security will continue to monitor the winter weather, collaborate with our local and state officials to assess conditions, and determine the best steps to keep Georgians safe. We ask that you follow all our guidance from your local officials, and continue to monitor your local National Weather Service and trusted news sources for the most updated information. GEMA Homeland Security will provide additional information and updates regarding winter weather via our website, gema.georgia.gov, where we have a page dedicated to this event. You can also follow us at Georgia EMA HS for updates on social media, or follow our state and local partners. With that, I'll open it up for a few questions.
Director Lamb, if I could, I have questions obviously for you, but for Will Langston, I wanted to ask you, does this storm have the potential to be the worst ice storm we've seen since 2014, and what does that mean for trees, power lines, and roads?
I think so. This is the first time that we've had an ice storm warning issued in Georgia since that event. It wasn't Snowmageddon, it was actually the event right after that. So it has been about 12 years since we've had these areas that have been forecast to have this amount of ice. If we remember back then, we did see significant impacts, and they were prolonged. They lasted more than a day or two. In some cases, some areas were, tough to travel on with power outages for at least a few days. So the area that's under an ice storm warning right now, which is most of North Georgia and north of I-20, should expect to see some significant ice accumulations. We're talking 1/4 of an inch to an inch of ice. That is a lot of ice. That is going to do a lot of damage to trees and power lines. Travel is going to be difficult to impossible for most areas. Metro Atlanta to the north, up the I-75, 575, 400 corridors all the way to the state line. Metro Atlanta to the east, all the way down I-20 to Augusta, and everywhere north and east of those interstates. So really that northeast quadrant, northeast of Metro Atlanta, and including much of the Metro Atlanta area, we're expecting significant ice accumulations. Travel will be extremely difficult in spots, and maybe extended power outages as well.
Sir, you give these, official statements all the time, and then there are people who have that false sense of security and say it's not going to happen to me. What do you need to tell them to make them know this could be detrimental to you?
Yeah, great question. I think, like I mentioned, it's been 12 years since we've had an ice storm warning in Georgia. So this is not a product that we see issued every year. It's pretty rare. So I think that indicates the confidence in the forecast for this event and the need to take it very seriously.
What are the guardsmen do? About 500, I think Governor Kemp mentioned. Can you explain to us, in the likelihood, what their roles would be with this winter storm warning?
They would be important coming in after the event and helping with the cleanup. So there's 500 that are on the SOE. Hopefully we don't need that many, but they would be there if we did to help on the backside of the storm with the cleanup.
Director Lamb, you talk about the activation of the Emergency Operations Center. In practical terms, for people at home, what does that mean about freeing up resources and getting them to where it's needed?
Well, it's a lot about collaboration. So when you think about the SOC, think about all the necessary stakeholders coming together and being in one place, which really makes communication a lot easier. We're able to problem solve. It makes things flow a lot better when you get people in one room. So when people at home think about the SOC, think about collaborating between all the agencies that are needed in an event of this type.
And also, what would be the difference between somebody experiencing an emergency calling 311 and then 911? A lot of times in those scenarios, people can panic. In what instance would they might want to call 311 versus 911?
Well, normally you reserve 911 for a life and death situation, and that's usually where that line's kind of drawn.
What are crews staging already, or have they begun to stage?
We're early on in our preparation. We have utility crews coming into the state. I don't know that they've staged anywhere yet, but all of that is in motion as we speak.
Director Lamb, what advice do you have for folks? They may be in such as Dahlonega, and they get hit with this ice storm, and they are without power, and they're deep in the woods. What would you tell them now about when you may be able to get to them, what they need to do now to prepare for what could be days without power?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and it goes back, I think, to one of the previous questions about everybody saying it won't happen to me until it does. And I go back and I say that is the reason we stress so much about preparing now. When you find yourself in that situation, there's not a whole lot that you can do. So I would just really stress to them now to be proactive and be prepared, because what you do now is going to determine the situation that you find yourself in later.
It sounds like the other areas, Columbus, Augusta, Savannah, may not be as impacted, but they could still see some effects. Do we have any indication on how those areas may be impacted in the state?
Yeah, so Augusta will likely be impacted, but you mentioned Columbus and Savannah. They're not expecting ice accumulations down there. In fact, in probably the southern half of Georgia, on Sunday it's going to be pretty warm. Could reach the 70s in some areas. That's just a product of the wedge that's moving in. It's going to be very cold in North Georgia, but the southern half of the state is going to be fine. So really, if you're in the southern half of Georgia, you really don't have a whole lot to worry about other than, some heavy rain and maybe some thunderstorms on Sunday. It's really that I-20 corridor and north, and really Macon to Augusta and north, that we're expecting to see those ice accumulations.
What exactly in Augusta is going to be as bad as Athens? We just don't know yet.
Further north is going to be worse. Augusta's probably on that kind of line, but they are in an ice storm warning as well in Augusta. So I would expect impacts there.
I'm sorry, but
That's good.
how much different or how much bigger do you expect this event to be than last week?
Oh, significantly bigger. Last week was 1 to 3 inches of snow in central Georgia. Travel disruptions didn't really occur. We didn't really see any power outages. This is completely different. 2 or 3 inches of snow with roads pre-treated, you can do a lot with. An inch of ice is pretty much impossible to do anything. Power's going to be out widespread. Travel's going to be impossible. So if you're in North Georgia, north of I-20, especially northeast Georgia, prepare for significant major impacts.
Will, I know it's been a while since we've had an ice storm warning here in Georgia. Have there been any storms in our history that you're aware of that kind of track along the lines of this one? This question comes from our meteorologist. You wanted me to ask you.
Yeah, so the 2014 one is very similar. You might hear the term the wedge that's moving in. That's a weather pattern that we get frequently in Georgia. The difference with this event is the strength of that wedge with the moisture coming in. That's pretty rare. So we have had several events like this in Georgia's history, but it's been 12 years since we've really had one of this magnitude.
Director Lamb, can you talk about GEMA's role in this? Obviously, civilians think that there's a bunch of people running around with GEMA jackets on. Explain GEMA's role and all the agencies that you have and how you coordinate them to a single emergency response.
Sure. So GEMA at our core is a coordinating agency, and one of the major roles we play is just that. So our state partners, as you all know, are great, whether that be DPS, Forestry, GBI, all of the state partners. We work together very closely. And it's times like these that we take on the coordinating role. We look at the task at hand. We divvy it out amongst all of us. We use the state of emergency to kind of cross maybe some non-traditional roles that we have in the past to make sure that we are getting the most effective response to Georgians in need.
Is there potential for commutes Tuesday morning to also be impacted from this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So another issue we're going to run into, even after the freezing precipitation moves out Sunday night, is temperatures are going to drop well below freezing on Monday morning. So any moisture that's remaining on roads, whether that's from freezing rain or rain later in the day on Saturday, if it's not dried up off of roads by late Sunday night, early Monday morning, it's going to freeze. So I would expect pretty significant impacts across North Georgia for the Monday morning commute. Tuesday morning, we're getting some of the coldest air that we've had in North Georgia in years. We're going to see single-digit low temperatures. That's air temperature with wind chill closer to 0 or maybe negatives. So Tuesday morning is going to be brutal cold. Obviously, anything that remains on Tuesday morning is also going to be frozen.
Director Lamb, can you talk about any kind of help that we are getting outside of the state of Georgia? Are there other resources being pulled in from Florida or perhaps even from federal help down the line? I know it's a big moving storm.
Right now, we don't have I talked about the utility companies coming in earlier. Right now, those are the only ones that we are getting from out of state, but obviously that would change as resource needs change. But for now, it's just utility companies that are coming in from out of state. Go back to the earlier question too, when I mentioned state partners. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention GDOT. They are awesome, and they do such a great job, and they're so good at what they do. And going back to the coordinating piece, we do everything we can to assist them, especially in times like this.
Director Lamb, it seems like today is the day for preparation. Tomorrow, the day for action here at the Emergency Operations Center, and hopefully in action for people at home. What is one thing that you would tell Georgia families tonight that they need to have on their mind before they go to bed?
Be weather aware. Stay informed. Between our website, FEMA's website, there's a lot of information out there as far as being prepared. But I would say the biggest thing I stress to them is have that interest in being prepared and what that means, and then go seek out and actually do it. Because we talk about this all the time, and we've mentioned it in here several times today. We all believe it's not going to happen to us until it does. I would just tell everybody that this storm is significant enough. You need to be taking the proper preparations now and not to wait till later, because you may not have that opportunity.
What about panic buying? Are there examples that you want to tell people people may be trying to be proactive, but also that could mean less supplies for other folks? What do you want to tell those folks?
Tell me the first part again.
About panic buying, people going in.
Well, don't panic. I mean, that goes into part of taking, being prepared. You get prepared where you don't have to panic. So, yeah, don't panic buy. You go out and get what you need when you need it. You look at again, it's part of being informed, being weather aware, and that way you can make smart decisions and don't panic buy.
For those people that can't access your fund, like you said, that can't access resources because other people did panic buy, how can they get resources from FEMA, water, blankets? Where do they get those things?
We're moving them around the state. What I would say is you reach out to your local government, who all have contacts with us. That's one of the things that our EMA coordinators do. You reach out to your local county government, and they have the ability and means to get in contact with us, and we move stuff around the state for just such instances.
Really quickly about farmers, I know some of them are still reeling from Hurricane Helene, especially in Augusta, the rural parts of Georgia. This is certainly going to be another impact. What's being done to help protect our rural communities, especially farmers, still reeling from the last storm?
Well, I think farmers are going to fall into the category of everybody else. This is one of those things. We obviously can't prevent an ice storm. I know everybody's doing everything, again, and that kind of goes back to the individual preparedness piece. The farmers are more knowledgeable in what they need to do to prepare for the ice storm than I am. So that kind of falls back into the individual preparedness piece and being prepared and informed, where they can take the necessary steps that they need to.
I know you talked about local governments. How are you guys coordinating with some of those local governments to help people who might be especially vulnerable in this instance, like elderly folks or maybe medically fragile folks?
Right, great question. So multi-piece, one of the things I would say that's very important, when you have an EMA director that is put forward into a county, they go through an EMA school, which we host here at GEMA. Through that, they're made aware of a lot of the resources that we have and the necessary communication channels to go through to get it. So we establish that link early on when an EMA director is taken on it at the local level, so those relationships are there. So the counties are aware of it. We have those relationships through our EMA coordinators that then coordinate through those directors. So we have those relationships in place for just times as these.
What is the deadline? Talking about preparation. What is the deadline you need to be done with your prep by this time?
Well, you want to address? Yeah, tomorrow afternoon. At the latest, I mean, that's when it's going to really come in. I would encourage everybody to do it today, because I think the earlier you can do it, the better. But it sounds like the no-go line's kind of tomorrow afternoon.
Really quickly, can you just say a quick little recap on north of I-20 and the ice and the impacts on that on power lines and down trees?
Okay.
I think for people watching, and you may have missed that earlier on.
Yeah, so anywhere where you get ice accumulations of more than 1/10 of an inch, you're going to have difficulties traveling. When you get to 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice, you cannot drive on roads. That's also the sort of level that power lines and trees start to come down, because the ice builds up on the power lines. Trees fall, power goes out, and if power companies can't get to those areas because you can't drive on the roads, you can't get the power back on. When you're talking 1 inch of ice, that rivals some of the biggest ice storms we've ever had in this state. And not only are you talking about impossible travel conditions. You're talking about power outages that may not be able to be fixed for days. So again, if you're in the ice storm warning area, not everyone in the ice storm warning is going to get the same impacts. If you're further north and east, your impacts are going to be higher. But if you're in the ice storm warning, you need to be prepared to not travel between Saturday afternoon and at least Monday morning, and prepare also to potentially have no power, Sunday night, Saturday night through Sunday, maybe into Monday as well.
Yeah, how likely are we to see massive widespread outages that last for days and days and days?
Yeah, it depends. Areas that get those half-inch to an inch accumulations, it's also going to be a little breezy. So we're looking at, sustained winds of 10 to 15 don't sound like much with gusts 20 to 30, but that's more than enough to knock down already fragile trees and power lines. So it really just depends on where the heaviest ice accumulations occur. The wind's going to be there, and, we have a lot of trees in Georgia, and they fall. So if there's power lines in the way, there's going to be power outages, and if crews can't get there, then the power's just not going to get put up. They're going to work as quickly as they can, but if it's bad enough, they're just not going to be able to get there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all, everybody. I would just close with this. I would encourage everybody to be proactive, be prepared, stay informed, and again, stay off the roads. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Well, you just heard from Georgia Emergency Management Director Josh Lamb regarding the state's preparations as parts of Georgia brace for a major winter storm expected to hit this weekend. I want to go over once again, we've been following this. Our meteorologists have been tracking it. The majority of the impacts are going to be middle and north Georgia. Places like Augusta, Macon, Atlanta. Really, the major ice is going to be anything north of I-20. Here on the coastal empire and in South Georgia, we're not expecting any major impacts like that. The biggest thing we could see is potentially freezing rain Saturday night, Sunday night. Specifically north of I-16 is where our Mets have been talking about it. Anything maybe in the Statesboro area. Again, the state of Georgia is now under a state of emergency that was issued by Governor Kemp yesterday. A lot of that preparation, again, is for middle and north Georgia, which is expected to get hit the hardest this weekend as we track this winter storm. One of the reasons we've been talking about this so much here on WTOC Plus is because if you have any friends or if you have any family in middle or north Georgia, we just want to make sure the word gets out, make sure that the folks living in those other parts of the state are safe and are prepared. That's the one thing we've heard officials, county governments, transportation departments talk about all weekend for the folks, again, in middle and north Georgia, is that you should be doing everything you can right now to be prepared. You heard Director Lamb just moments ago saying from Saturday afternoon to potentially Monday for some of these areas where these ice storm warnings are in effect for the first time in the state in 12 years, don't expect to leave your house. Again, if Georgia does get hit as hard as the forecasts are tracking. We should also note South Carolina under a very similar state of emergency that was issued by Governor Henry McMaster on Wednesday. This storm is expected to hit a lot of the South this weekend, even going up the coast, South Carolina, North Carolina. Another thing we wanted to talk about, again, on the topic of we all know someone in the other part of the state. The University of Georgia is encouraging students to go home today after classes end, citing the potential for crippling conditions caused by the storm. Athens is supposed to get hit pretty hard, or is expected to get hit pretty hard, I should say. University officials say they do anticipate campus being closed on Monday. They will have an update for students and staff by Sunday afternoon. We've seen a handful of other colleges and universities in Middle Georgia, Fulton County, DeKalb County, put out similar warnings. But since, so many students from our area go to UGA, we wanted to inform you of that as well. UGA, again, recommending students to get home this weekend right now if they are able to. Again, Athens supposed to get hit pretty hard. With that, we are going to conclude our coverage here on WTOC Plus. I want to reiterate again, our meteorologists have been tracking this storm all week since it first came on our radar. We're not expecting major impacts in the coastal empire or southeast Georgia. Middle Georgia and North Georgia should be bracing and preparing for major ice, major winter storms this weekend. For the latest updates and forecasts, you can tune into our shows at the top of every hour here on WTOC Plus and WTOC, or check our website, WTOC.com. And that is going to conclude our coverage here on WTOC Plus.